What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Podcast time, The Phantoms. So, back in 2018, I was asked to remix Designs for You, which was a record from The Phantoms. I hadn't actually heard The Phantoms before. And when I heard the original of Designs for You, I was like, this is a really good record. And I did the remix, and that's kind of how this relationship started. We then hung out and ate some food. And now they are about to release their second album, and I wanted to get them on the podcast and have a good chat with them. So without further ado, the one and only Phantoms.
Got it.
Vinny, Kyle, what's cooking, lads?
What's up? Holding it down in Los Angeles right now. It's looking like it's going to be a hot day. I'm excited.
Yep.
It's like, what's the time here? It's 8 p.m. in the UK right now. And it's
where in the UK are you?
I'm in Somerset, which is just outside Bristol.
Nice.
Very nice. Yeah. We got to get back out there.
I was just going to say, I kind of wish we were out there right now. We've been stateside for the past 3 years now, and it's just want to go back to Europe, want to go back to a lot of places. Asia, too. Let's get us back there.
Yeah, what's going on with Asia right now?
I
haven't kept up. Do you know, Kyle?
I think Japan is doing like a trial for people to come in. You have to be like 4 times boosted or something like that. They're doing like a small number to kind of test how it goes. But as far as like Hong Kong and stuff, I have no idea what their opening is. But God, I miss it so much.
I had a friend that she lived in Shanghai pretty much the last like 5-6 years, and she came to this. She's not from there, but I'm pretty sure she's a resident, and she came to the States and then went to go back, and they were like, "No, you're not coming in."
Damn.
Really?
Yeah.
So like now she's had to move to the States like full time.
So weird. It's like, hey, your life
wild.
is completely different now. Haha. Now you live in the States. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
I know,
So
right?
insane.
It's rough. It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Why? Obviously, the pandemic is one of the reasons, but why have you guys not been to Europe for so long? Is there a reason, or is it just how the cookie crumbles?
I'd say it's definitely like just our main touring market just happens to be in the States.
Yeah.
I would love to play Europe more often. You know, it's just about getting out there, though. I guess.
I think too, for our like style of electronic music, it doesn't quite fit into just like a box where it's easy to sort of like break new ground at a certain club, maybe to be like, oh, they're a house artist, or they're this or this.
Yeah.
We kind of like play house, but it's a little more indie electronic. So we've never played anywhere in the UK, I don't think.
Yeah.
And,
really?
We did some weird event in Barcelona, but it was like all Americans there.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like there was like this
funny.
college festival, and it was like literally all of just like the University of Phoenix was there.
Yeah. What's the Arizona University? It was all kids from
ASU.
Phoenix.
ASU, He was pretty much just like playing for an American crowd with the surroundings of Barcelona. So that was weird. But no, definitely really want to get out there. Like we wrote a lot of our new album in London, and just
really?
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
a tiny little room.
What studios?
What was the name? It was kind of near
Tile Yard.
Yeah. We had I think the smallest room in all of Tile Yard. It was about like a closet, and we would have people come in. Like Jem Cook came in. She was so cool about it, but we are just like all jammed in this room, no windows or anything like that. It was a bit like a jail cell.
I literally did a session in that same room the other day.
You know,
we did 2 weeks in it. It was started to lose our mind a little bit.
2 weeks in that room. I refused. I was like, I'm never doing another session in there. It's like,
we definitely spent a lot of time playing ping pong outside in that little common area.
Yeah.
That was nice.
It's a really cool setup there that they have though, with like, I love the concept of having a bunch of studios together, because usually like a studio complex, there's like 5 or 6 studios and people just go in and out and in and out. Whereas there it's like a community of studios where you have the Tile Yard Studios, you also have the TYX Studios, which is also Tile Yard, but I think it's like the bougie end of it. And then they all have like restaurants and cafes all kind of based around the studio. I think it's really important because it like brings more people together rather than you're just going in and out.
That was what we loved about it. I mean, we already drink a lot as it is, but we would go to that little cafe and just kind of start doing shots of, I think, whiskey there. And it seemed like they weren't used to people coming in to just sort of like rip shots after a session. So it was fun, though. Like with everybody that we wrote with there, we'd all kind of get a drink after, play some ping pong. And then it was kind of nice. There was some event they were throwing on like our last night there after our 2-week stint. So we all had a bunch of drinks and it sort of felt like our going away party, even though it had nothing to do with us. And it was still a lot of fun. I did like the vibe at that place. It was a very cool, like you said, just community there, which is
think just the writing community in general in London and the UK is just more our speed than maybe what it is out here. It's just different in LA. It's just the songwriting.
A lot of pop people that are just like top line driven, or they look at other songs and they're like, we should do something like that. Like this song's blowing up on like dance radio. And then you're not really doing anything that unique or interesting. It's all just, okay, cool. The night sky, let's open up the ceiling and fly. Like that's garbage.
I think
lyrics like that.
It's really interesting you say that, because I was in a session with Marley Coe and Leo Stannard. They go under the name as Arco. And they're English, and they said the opposite thing about LA. So they went and did like 5 weeks in LA, and they were like, "This is the best, best thing ever."
Maybe it's like grass is greener situation.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's just what you're used to, right? It's like when you're at school, all the girls at your school were like not as hot as the girls at the other school.
The other schools, Well, you also see everything with like rosy colored glasses too when you're traveling, and you're like, because you get there, you're like, oh, London's so much better than LA, because we're from LA, and it's probably like people from there come here, they're like, oh, LA's so much better, which I don't know if you would say that right now with how LA is, but
no, London is definitely better than LA. Sorry.
Yes, I agree 100%.
But yeah, I think like the whole I've never really done writing in LA. I'm about to go. In fact, when this podcast comes out, I would have been. But yeah, I'm about to come out and do some writing out there, and I'm really interested to see what it's like, because I've never done it.
I guess it all depends on who you get set up with.
Exactly.
So that's really what it comes down to. Are you? Do you have any LA locals you're going to be writing with, or is it kind of people from all over?
I'm going to be writing. Well, I'm still in the process of working out who, but do you know Burns?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to do I'm going to do some stuff with him, which is weird because he's English. So it's kind of like
come all the way here.
I think I'm going to get in with Dennis White, who he's more of like a vibe dude. I don't know if you know Dennis.
Nice. I'm not sure if I do.
He's like an old Detroit guy. Like,
but
he does like a lot of the inner city stuff and things like that. And then I want to get in with some pop people, not necessarily to write pop records, but I love
see what comes of it.
Yeah, I love the concept. I like being able to mix it up.
We've written with some like super talented pop writers where even if like what we make doesn't really ever come out or see the light of day, it's just a crazy experience to see how fast some of these guys and girls can come up with top lines that are like way out of something that I would have ever like experienced or come up with first, you know.
They're super talented. Like it's something I don't know about you guys, but I don't really know your background of what music or how music started for you, but like for me it was just more production and writing underground house music. And the whole concept of writing has only come to me in the last couple of years, and only in the last like 6 to 8 months that's really interested me on actually wanting to write actual songs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's cool. I mean, that's probably more of our background, I guess, not in the traditional, like sort of pop writing session way. We just always, I guess when we started, we were like focused more on writing songs and song structures and electronic music in that realm. So now it's actually, we're sort of doing the opposite. We're like, let's just try to make more club focused music.
Oh, really?
After this album, you know, like this album's pretty strong. Songs.
Yeah. Well, that was sort of the goal to begin with, because we also, you know, kind of like band backgrounds. We always wanted to sort of make songs. And when we first got signed to Universal and like Casablanca Records, they were really like sort of pop focused. And we thought, okay, cool, we're going to do like a pop electronic type thing. And like, just the longer we were in it and the more we kind of fell in love with like dance music, it didn't feel right. And it felt kind of lame and a little cheesy. So you know, the indie electronic always felt sort of like natural to us, but we've now, from just DJing over the past 3 years and touring a bunch, we really want to start making a lot more like club records. I think that's sort of the next path for us after this album comes out.
So you're talking about the album. I'm not too sure when this podcast is coming out. When's the album coming out?
August 12th.
So I think this podcast is coming out around the same time. I think we're setting it up so it comes out.
Well timed.
Yeah, well timed. Did you want to write an album, or were you just contractually obliged?
I don't know if you can take it, Kyle.
Yeah, we'll try to avoid all pandemic talk because it's fucking boring to hear about the pandemic. But during that time, we were sort of kind of going through this weird thing. We were writing. Some days would be amazing. Then you'd go through like 2 weeks. We were like, I don't want to do shit. And we kind of got this weird body of work together. We weren't totally happy in our old label situation. It seemed like we wanted different things. We wanted to kind of explore more and do more of what we wanted to do. And two of our really good friends are Odessa, Harrison and Clay. They would always give us advice of just be like, guys, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, don't listen to the label, all that, which is all, that sounds great. But when you're also like, the label's paying for stuff, we need to do this, you're sort of at this like loss of what are we going to do?
It's also easy for Odessa to say that.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's like you take it, I mean, it's beautiful advice, but it's not maybe the most attainable thing for when you're not completely at that level. But with that being said, we realized it wasn't really working with our label. Was able to get out of that, out of the major label deal. And we sent the Odessa boys a bunch of our singles and stuff, and they were really into it. They're like, this is awesome. Are you guys seeing an album? And we kind of came to the conclusion that, we're going to do an album. So that's when we signed this album to Foreign Families. So it's our first release on there, which is very different than the major label in a great way. Like, obviously you're in less debts, which is a good thing. You're not getting those like major money like right up front, but it just feels way more hands-on and way more like authentic.
Yeah, I like the concept of that, and I've had multiple people on this podcast that have spoken about majors and how it kind of takes a lot of the creative vibe because you have A&Rs getting involved. But I guess the one thing that I'm really interested in is, obviously I haven't heard the album, but when signing it to this label and when working with your management, are you still with the same management as well? Yeah. Is it Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. Paul, love Paul, legend.
Yeah, he's the man.
So when you guys are writing the album and working with the label and your management, is there an A&R process between you all, or is it just strictly you two guys just get involved and it's just you and you're like this and you present it?
In this case, it was pretty much just, Kyle and I. We definitely, we would ask them for notes, with open arms because, I really respect their opinions on stuff too. But at the end of the day, everyone at Foreign Family and Paul was like, this is just whatever you guys want to do, So that was the first time we had that ability, which was really nice.
Yeah. And I think the notes, if anything, would be us having maybe two, like an alt chorus for a song. I mean, like which one, like, can we just kind of pull and see which one you guys think is stronger? Yeah. And kind of go there, just kind of like almost get our own research that way. But it was really kind of freeing to just fully be able to write without hearing like, I don't know, this doesn't sound like a bop. You're like, what the fuck does that even mean? Which is actual feedback we've gotten from our major label.
Yeah, the whole A&R thing from majors, it's like something that I've always wanted to experience, but also heard so many horror stories that I'm like,
you get some pretty insane feedback sometimes that they have I don't know what to do with this.
And they have to give feedback. It's part of the job. So even if there's nothing to be said, I still have to just say some shit just to say it. And a lot of times we would take their advice by not doing anything, send it back to them, and they'd be like, yeah, I hear the difference. Did absolutely nothing. It just shows how fucking dumb it is.
Yeah, that's just when there's like an ego involved, right?
100%.
And there's just a system, there's just a huge system at a major label where, like you said, Cal, everyone has a job to do. And sometimes the job should be just to not do anything, but by doing something, you're sort of like hindering creative processes. So
I couldn't get over it too, though. Even like we'd have remixers on certain tracks and we'd hear that they haven't even paid them out yet. And this is like a major label that has Taylor Swift on it. They have The Weeknd. You guys can spare a remix fund that you already agreed to. It was such a,
Well, it's even when I remember having a conversation when I did the Designs for You remix and they were just like, we don't want to push it because it's a club record.
Dude, first off, that remix like really helped us out a lot and got us so many looks from just so many people outside of our realm in the house world and in sort of just the general dance world, and it really helped drive that song. And going back to that song, they did not want to release that because it didn't have lyrics on it. They were like, Designs for You, this doesn't have, I don't know how to do this, to which Paul really had to fight for it and be like, no, it's a fucking great record, it's a dance record, you guys are a dance label, this should be like, figure it out. They couldn't do that.
It was like, because Paul, it's really interesting how all of this, how we kind of came together, is because it was in 2018, I believe.
Probably 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018. So I'd left my management at that time and I'd been talking to other managers and I'd already kind of agreed to go in with a manager, who is my current manager, but during me kind of agreeing and not like fully agreeing is I was speaking to the guys at Little Empire, which is your management, and I was talking to Paul, and it was literally on the email of me emailing Paul going, look mate, I'm really sorry, but like I've already kind of decided to go with somebody. He was like, no worries at all, keep in touch. Also, here's a track from the Phantoms, like would you be up for remixing it? And I'll be honest, like, our worlds were so different at that time. Like, I hadn't heard of you guys, and I'm pretty sure you guys hadn't heard of me. And I was like, this fucking record's wicked.
Oh, thanks.
This record's really interesting. And it was like slightly different to what you guys had already done because there wasn't a vocal on it, but there was something really interesting about it. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to try. And then the remix, I wrote the remix pretty quickly in Airbnb in San Diego before I played.
Love that.
Dude, it's so good. The amount of play that got to, I just remember there was one moment, I think it was like Fisher posted it, of him playing it like at some giant club in like Ibiza or somewhere, and just seeing like Chris Lake start to play it and all these other people that definitely had no idea who we were, and it just sort of like opened up that song. It was just awesome. So thank you. You absolutely annihilated that.
Honestly, that remix has helped my career as well. Like,
that's awesome. That's great to hear.
It's definitely something that it was like a point in my career where I was transitioning to another kind of section of my career life, and that was like a stepping stone, and it brings back so many good memories to me, and I still play that record.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, you did something really unique with it. I mean, it's like kind of unexpected, you know, and it's hard to find that in the remixing world. You know, it's easy to just sort of go like paint by numbers with it. But you did something so creative with it and really you also kept the core of like the original, which is kind of like the perfect remix, really.
Well, I love the original. The original was amazing. So it was like, I was like, how do I actually create something that fits for my sound? That also keeps the original. And it was really interesting talking about A&R is like, I don't often ask for advice on records so much. I'll send it to mates, but like sometimes I send, like, me and my manager speak quite regularly about records, and sometimes I take what he says with a pinch of salt and sometimes not. Yeah. And I sent that to him and his response was, I want more of it. Because at the point when I sent it to him, I'd only done the first breakdown and there wasn't the second breakdown. And literally it was like the first breakdown and then it would just, the track would end really. Yeah. And then you'd mix out. And he was like, no, I want more. And that's when the second breakdown came in.
Right. Oh, yeah, so good.
Yeah,
great.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
And then we met in Florida.
Yeah, we had a beautiful dinner at a Bahama Breeze, which is a chain restaurant outside of like an airport hotel.
Awful.
And
It's like shrimp dibblers.
Yeah,
and
literally.
just like
Just
the most disgusting meal.
Who was
there.
with
But
us?
that was, like,
Was Gavin from Walker and Royce with us?
I think it was Gavin was with us, and we were having some drink. I forget what festival was that.
it was the one in Tampa, Sunset, right?
Sunset.
God,
yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been fun, just like a couple of fans to see, like Phantoms, Will Clarke, Walker and Royce sitting in Bahama Breeze eating coconut shrimp dibblers. The best.
So bad. That food was terrible. Yeah, so I guess because that was on an album. Was that on an album?
That was an EP.
EP. Yeah.
Have you done? Sorry, I probably should know this. Have you done an album before?
We have. Our first album came out 5 years ago, actually.
Wow.
And it was self-titled, and I think our biggest song after that was "Just a Feeling," which was like number one on like dance radio for a bit. You know, everything that major labels love that we don't really care about. But so it's.
Did you care at the time though?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was definitely cool.
But what's so funny about them is once that happened, they wanted us to just sort of recreate that to the point where they wanted us to sit down with Vanessa Hudgens and have her re-record that track that's already been out with Verite and already like out in the ether, and re-record it to try to. I don't even know. I don't know how that would have panned out or what that idea even was.
Yeah. You hear that so often, especially in the UK, where you have like an underground record that's doing really well on the charts, and then the majors try and put a top line vocal on, and you just know that it's like. I think the most recent was that Talamanca with Burns. And,
right.
And like I had him on the podcast, and he was like, "Dude, the amount of top liners we had sent in to like try and make it into like something completely different."
Yeah,
it's kind of sad because it just ruins. I think the only one that's done well out of that is I think Second City. My Love. Was it Second City or Route 94? My Love. I think it's Route 94.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
or else I mean I know what you mean. A lot of the times it does just sound like a vocal is just sort of sitting on top of the original song.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing really.
They're not like
built around it or anything.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. So when you guys, I kind of want to compare your first album process to how it was different with this process. When 5 years ago, when the first album came out, like you're completely different human beings, right? The world hasn't, whatever's happened in the world hasn't happened,
right? And
you haven't experienced what you experienced when you went in writing that first album. What was the process then?
So
go ahead. I was going to say, I think we were a lot. Let's actually just talk at the same time.
Yeah.
I think we were just a lot more naive back then. Obviously, it was 5 years ago. A lot greener in the industry, and the process was pretty straightforward. I mean, we just had a collection of songs. It was similar in this process too, where we were like, we want to at least make these flow together and feel like they're cohesive and they work as a unit, and it's not just a collection of 13, 14 beats just kind of squashed together. And like that's an album, so we wanted to have a story.
Our first album, we had to work with a writer on every song because like I didn't really feel confident doing a lot of writing yet, and I had just started sort of singing on a couple tracks there. And on this one, a lot of it was written just with Vinny and I, like lyrics, vocals, like everything all together, no real like writers. And we tried to, something that we did back then that we still do now is we don't really love to take top lines in that are already kind of pre-written and write around it. We usually like to write with whoever's in the room. That's sort of been our thing. Obviously there's no right or wrong or bad or good with that. That's just sort of been our process. But being able to like write something just ourselves and get it out there, and it's just there's no real better feeling than that. It's really really awesome. So that was a big difference, I think, on these two.
No, I agree with that, because I think I'm the same, where I don't like to work with a vocal that's written as a top line and then kind of sold to whoever gets it.
It feels a little at least in my mind, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it just feels a little like cheap and not very authentic. And we did that once. There was one song called Agenda that didn't really do anything. There's an old song, but that was a top line. And I remember even when that came out, we were like, ugh, it feels a little weird, a little gross.
Yeah, you don't have much connection to it. You know, I know it sounds kind of silly maybe, but just you want to have like a bit of an emotional connection to the music you put out.
No, it makes complete sense, really, because it's kind of you're making music that is almost it's almost like a factory, right? Where it's just kind of being churned out in that situation where, like, how many times have you been sent top lines where, like, the top liner thinks it's an amazing top line, but because you weren't in the original session, you're like, nah, I don't get this. This is fucking awful.
And most likely the lyrics themselves will probably be pretty, you know, generic and straightforward, because like you said, it's a machine. So like they go in, they crank them out, and so it's a talented thing to do, to be able to do that. But there's definitely not a lot of like meaning behind the lyrics either.
It's interesting to think of the DJ/producers that have ghostwriters out there that are also getting top line sent in. It's like, does the ghostwriter then do they say no to the top line? At what point does it reach the DJ or the front facing person that has nothing to do with the music at all?
Right.
Wonder that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in the UK right now, where there's a lot of like pop guys that are pop DJs that, don't get me wrong, they do a great job of doing what they do, but you know that this record has been on the rounds for a while, and they've taken it, or their producers have taken it, and it's turned into a pop hit. It's kind of genius, but it doesn't do it for me at all, really.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I wish I could do that.
I think there's just a disconnect, right? A disconnect from it. For me, it's like that is kind of making the music not part of it. It's
100%.
Like, it's not part of you. It's not part of. Yeah. However, like, I don't know. If somebody's like, look, this vocal is going to be a #1 record, and you weren't in the room, but you are gonna produce it and do everything else to it, and it will be a #1 record, would I take it? I probably would, if I'm honest with myself.
Yeah, of course. But also, I feel like you do that, and then it just wouldn't be #1 for some reason. It's even fucking worse about it. Yeah. Yeah, the ghost producer thing is always interesting to me, and it seems like you always hear rumors of it with people, and I obviously don't want to like name fucking anybody here, but it just seems like it's starting earlier and earlier when people are having success now, at least from what I'm hearing, with some certain newer artists that have sort of like risen pretty quickly that already have a ghost producer. You're like, okay, then at what point? I don't know. It just feels a little strange. And I guess it's all about the touring then at that point. So just like have somebody else churning out the music. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just sort of like the face of it, kind of a thing. But,
yeah, Vinny, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I guess it goes back to like, it's not really the music, you know, it takes the life out of it. I guess the hippie, like, come on, that's not real music, man. It's like that kind of vibe. It's
I think there's like two ways that I look at it, depending on how I feel of the day. Is some days I'm like, I really respect it, and it's just a business, and nowadays the music industry isn't just about music, which is sad to say. But it's about what you look like, how you play, how you're perceived. And I'm also a big believer that having multiple people, getting the best people to do what they're best at doing to help your career grow, I feel like that can be really helpful. So there's so many artists that don't write their records, but they still have this insane career, right? And they have bigger careers than you and I. And you're like, fuck, like they're doing something right. And the driving force of that is the bigger records.
Yeah,
that's true.
Does that feel right to me? I don't know. It depends on the day. Really.
It depends on how many offers are coming in, what those numbers are looking like.
But like, let's say for instance, like Tiesto, like he doesn't write his records. I don't know how much of the process he's part of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but
I don't
know
much, but he looks like the happiest man.
But I was going to say, but having met him multiple times, he's all smiles and the nicest dude. So I don't think he's like really even that worried about it.
No, and I think that's the thing is at the point, it gets to the point where a lot of the people that aren't writing their own records are so successful that they don't actually give a fuck what people say.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And
doesn't matter.
And I think that maybe at some point that has to be done if you want to have that level of touring and ability to have a standard release schedule with kind of insane touring. Because I don't think a human could tour that often and also release records on a consistent basis like that, unless they spent, I don't know, a full year just like putting songs away in like a folder and just slowly like get those out one by one.
Yeah, I feel you with that schedule thing because I'm like writing a lot at the moment or trying to write a lot for something I'm working on, and you're just like, it's hard to kind of balance where you're touring 2-3 days a week, but also with that 2-3 days a week, it's like takes up another day.
Totally to readjust.
Traveling, you come back, you have to do life admin stuff. You also have to do career admin stuff, right? Like I'm not lucky enough to have an assistant that deals with all my emails or deals with all the other stuff that I have to deal with. I also have a podcast to do. And then on top of that, I also have to write, and the writing should be the most important thing out of all of that, but it's not. Everything else kind of seems to take up the space. How do you guys balance that? Because I know there's two of you, which sometimes might make it easier. I don't know, but like, how do you balance that? We need to write a record now.
I guess it depends on what, like you said, what the touring schedule is like, and it's hard. I mean, like last summer, we were doing a lot of writing for the album and like trying to finish stuff up. And we had it was a lot of DJ shows because obviously everything had just come back last summer, and so it was busier than it normally is. And we would have time during the week, but we were pretty beat up. And it was definitely it took pretty much until we were done with that, like that summer that we had, like, we're able to like sit down and finish stuff, because you can't really finish stuff if you're just working an hour at a time here and there. You really need to sit down in front of the computer. Also, like your 6 hours.
Your headspace too. I feel like when we're in the album mode, we're here for a while. We're both in that headspace, but we're just traveling and so many different shows. And you're home for a couple, days. You got life, girlfriends, other shit going on. You're right. It is really hard to get back to the most important thing, which is like writing and like making the music. But I do remember we pushed back. We were supposed to have our record turned in. I think it started in like May, and then it moved to August, and then I think it was finally turned in like October. Much to our manager's dismay. Shout out Paul. But it finally got turned in. But it does help. Like I think being in a duo. I think there are times when I can push Vinny or he can push me if one of us is slacking, and kind of figure out moments and sort of just like, I don't know, get us back on track, because it's easy to sort of fall off for a bit and get maybe some not bad habits, but you know what I mean? Just get a little lazy for a second or something like that.
And when you're writing, how do you both write together at the same time, or do you guys go off and do your own separate things, write and bring ideas? Like how does that work?
So Vinny will usually start with just a random beat of some kind, just something there, and send it to me. I'll start writing top line ideas, some like lyric stuff, send it back. We kind of talk back and forth on that. Then we kind of come together to like finalize whatever that song is going to be. And that's, it's been our way of working for a while. I don't think we've ever like been in the same room, just like wrote a song from like scratch from the beginning of just like,
no, not really.
Add this. It's just never really been our thing, and I feel like it only impedes the process a little more. Like we'll come together to like write or fix like a chorus or figure out some stuff, but the little stuff, like I'd rather like let him do his thing and I'll do my thing, and then we can take it from there.
When you came to the UK and did like a whole bunch of writing sessions, what was that with other people as well, or was that just you two?
That was us two. We had just a lot of different people coming each day. Obviously, the two songs, like we have the two Jem Cook songs on the album that were done with her out there. Yeah. She's amazing. And we wrote with a bunch of other amazing writers out there. Honestly, everyone was so talented. It was refreshing to work in a space too where in the UK, everyone is very well aware of dance music and what dance music is, and you know how to write to different versions of dance music. And you know, I think in the States, you kind of, once someone hears a kick drum, like there's immediately going to maybe old versions of what dance music is, or what they would assume it is. One session
we had with some dude, he was like this big giant dude, and we were told he's one of the best, he's written so many songs. We like played him some stuff, some just like demos. He's like, ooh, 80s vibes, 70s stuff. And he was just kind of like writing like these kind of like corny 80s things to it, almost like making fun of it. We're just like, all right, dude, like just get the fuck out of here. And that's the worst thing. When the session is off to a bad start and you just know it's not going to work. How do you get out of that? Have you had to end a session early? I want to hear your like exit thing when you just know it's not working at all.
I generally just go and get lunch with them and try and like build a relationship outside of music with them,
right?
And then go back in the session with and just be like, let's start something new.
Yeah, okay. That's smart.
Like
I like that.
I think it's very easy to go into sessions with expectations of like what we want as artists, but I find top liners and singers, people may not like this, but if this is my experience, to have a bit more of like the artsy ego to them, and I don't think that's a negative thing. That's what makes them who they are. So I think for me, it's like, how am I going to go into the session and get the best out of them? Like it might not necessarily be the best for me, but I want them to come out of the session going, yeah, I want to work with Will again because he got the best out of me.
Right. And I think that's a very good way of looking at it.
Yeah. I think like, well, how many sessions do you do and then don't do anything with the records? Like
it's a lot.
So many.
Like more than 50%.
The worst too is when you're kind of excited about it in the room and then they're excited about it too. And then you sit on it for a bit and you're like, God, this really just doesn't fit with anything else. And then it sort of dies and you get that text about a month later, like, hey, what's going on? Track that we were working on. You're like, oh yeah, we're still working on it, blah blah blah, we're not sure. And then that's the classic. It's happened to us a few times.
It's tough that I think for me, I just have to be like completely honest and just be like, it's not working for me, go do what you want with it. Because
I've done that,
because it's just like easier just to get it over and done with. And then I think it puts it to an end. It puts the track to the end where you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about that now. I've told him that it's like I can now move on to the next. But I'm in that situation right now with the record that like I've got a top line that is insane, like on another level. The song is insane. Is it a Will Clarke record? No.
Right.
Yeah, and then you almost feel bad because you're like, oh, I want the world to hear this, but what do I do with this? Because it's not like, I'm sure you don't want to just like give it away to somebody. But
because I know that like, I don't know that it's a hit record, but I know that it's insane. And but then it goes back to what the Odessa Boys were saying to you, and it's like, just put it out.
Yeah.
You never know, right?
If you like it, and if it feels, maybe if it doesn't feel like a Will Clarke record, but if it feels true to you and what you want.
Yeah, you might get a couple angry, like, what is this, dude?
Yeah.
Like those people online that just like to chime in. But other than that, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, definitely. So with this album, you spent a long time writing it by the sounds of it.
Pretty good amount of time.
Do you set deadlines?
Yes, we do, but those last year got pushed back. But yeah, we do set deadlines. Once I think we start setting deadlines once we have a more cohesive idea of like what it's going to look like. It's kind of hard to set deadlines when you're in that sort of amorphous process of just spitting out ideas.
Yeah.
But once we kind of have an idea of what the whole is going to be, then it's easier to set deadlines for sure. Because you kind of have to. I could work on something forever,
Yeah.
It's also hard too, because we'd have to deal with this just with like even label and management of like, guys, when do you think you'll have like the first pass of the album done? And you're like, well, I want to give you a response, but it's also such a like vague, abstract. Like, I don't know. Like, we're gonna work on it until we're like stoked. And I understand timing is everything, and to build out like a touring schedule and how you're going to go, you need to know when this stuff is. But also on the artist side of it, we want this to be really good, not just like poop out a record that we're like, that's okay, but at least we hit our deadline.
I was talking to Justin Martin like 4 or 5 months ago, and he's been working on writing an album for a while. And I was like, how's the album coming on? He's like, mate, I scrapped it all. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, like I want to write an album where no one's heard any of the music, and a lot of people have heard a lot of this music already because of my DJ sets and things like that. And I was like, you're a brave man. But also going back to his Hello Clouds album, his second album, it's mental. He had a date for the release, so they set a tour up, and it was an insane tour, like everywhere. And then he just didn't release the album. So he did the album tour before the album came out. And then I
like that.
And then the album came out, and then he did another tour for the album.
Another tour.
Yeah, see, you gotta make it work.
Yeah. I'm just like,
make it work.
Fair play. Like, do what that, but I think that's the thing, is when you're not dealing with majors, you don't have to, you can do what the fuck you want. When you're dealing with like an independent, which he was, is like, do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Just make it work. I mean, we're in the process right now. We haven't done the live show in probably 3 years. I think the last show is where I got COVID, actually. It was like Okeechobee Fest in Florida. But just even now figuring out sort of a live tour for this, we have the dates and stuff. The cost of everything has gone up so much. It is wild. And flights are way more expensive. So we had this like grand idea for the live tour of what we wanted to do. And we've had to like scale back and scale back and scale back. So it's going to be interesting. That's a whole nother thing. We have to still finalize what we're doing for that, but we have the dates and stuff. We haven't announced them yet, but yeah, it's kind of a little bit daunting to think about right now at the moment.
How does the live thing work for you guys? Because I love the idea of live, but like you said, there's so many like barriers that get put up, and it's so easy just to turn up with your USB sticks and headphone and sell the same amount of tickets.
That's I mean, that's the full thing. We what we were doing before is like a lot of synthesizer. Vinny's a drummer, so he would drum. I would sing on everything. It would sort of be like live looping, like sampling, stuff like that. And so that was sort of as much as we could do like live without a band or something like that. Obviously Ableton playback. Now we're trying to even simplify it more, because we were in sort of 2 stations and we kind of don't like that. Like we want to be sort of together working on stuff. So I'm not really sure what that's going to look like with this round, but you're right. I mean, you can get away with a lot and call it a live show these days. And I on the one hand, I'm like, I don't know if it even matters as long as the show's fucking good. I know there are those people that really focus on, well, what exactly is happening up there? What are they doing? But if the show's fantastic and it looks great, like, who cares?
I think the interesting thing about a live show is that you're in a different venue to a club a lot of the time, right? So it's a hard ticket venue, or it's a festival.
That's the entirety of this tour that we're being played. It's not all hard ticket rooms.
How you feeling about that? Hard tickets are tough right now.
I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. Our agent, we have the same agent as Odessa and a few other things. And his thing has always been growing hard ticket acts and doing that. So we've been used to it. We've grinded it out. We've done the opening tours for, $200 a night for like 2 months, just when we were starting out and like grinding. We're used to that life. Definitely have gotten spoiled. It's so funny when you DJ, just you don't have to bring nearly as much. You get treated better. Your hotel is usually covered. A bunch of other crap. This stuff is just like, here's your fee. I don't know. Fucking go set up.
Figure it out.
Hope you sell out.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Get the fuck out of the venue. It's so weird. And you're like, why would we do this?
And even the money for the hard tickets is not as good until you start getting to the very high volumes.
It's the classic thing, which is like, for better slots at festivals for different cities that maybe we're not so known in, you want to be able to show them like the proof of like, hey, they did X amount of tickets here. Let's push them up on this.
Yeah.
I understand that aspect of it. also our album itself doesn't really lend itself to like a DJ set, so we kind of have to do the live tour for this. That's being said, that's why we kind of want to focus on some more club records and stuff after that, because we love DJing, we love going out there and doing that. We love a great club night for sure.
When you're doing live, do you have a team that do it with you as well, or is it just you guys?
It depends. It kind of just depends on the show and what's going on. Like we've done a couple live tours where we had a crew with us, like 3 people, I think. The main crew.
It's a lot of people to pay for.
Yeah, I know.
It's so expensive.
We're now, with all of the cost of everything rising, we're like, we got to figure out how to do a lot of this ourselves, you know, maybe with like 1 or maybe 2 other people.
Oh, buddy, we had grand plans with like a giant bus, and, all this shit. And so that slowly went from a bus to a Sprinter to a van to like 5 crew members to like 2 to maybe 1.
Yeah.
Also cut some shows out too that, no offense to these cities that will not be there. I won't say them now, but it's like, it just didn't make sense, like financially. It's just like best case scenario. And I know this is why a lot of people aren't doing live tours right now, is I think best case scenario for us, we will be breaking even on this tour, which like sucks. Like, that's not what you want to hear. It's an important step for sure. But yeah, I mean, DJing is definitely the way to go, at least right now with the climate.
Well, I think the thing is that breaking even on a tour is actually really interesting if you're at the start of your career. But when you guys have built a level of success where you're at, breaking even purely because the cost of everything goes up is just ridiculous.
It's a bit different. I know. That sucks.
So I mean, it's fine. We've had to go back and forth on how we're gonna make this work, but we're excited. Actually, I think the show's gonna be really cool. So if it's announced when this comes out, buy tickets. We'll be sitting near you.
Yeah, I love the idea. I love the idea of a live show. I grew up listening to live electronic music. That was like my first introduction to dance music. So like Faithless, Chemical Brothers, Prodigy, they were all like stuff. And I think it's very hard to do it nowadays, and there's not many people that do it really well. Like, I saw clips of Bicep going live in Glastonbury this past weekend, or a couple of weekends ago.
Nice.
This will be like a month ago when this comes out, but like, and I've seen their live show on YouTube before, but for me it's like the visualization of what they do is amazing, but it doesn't really feel like a live show to me, because it's just 2 guys looking at each other, twisting a few knobs. You don't even know if they're twisting a few knobs.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it's become, for sure.
Live show's very loose. There's another person we know who literally has one like MPC and it's just playing that, and it's just about visuals. The term live has definitely kind of changed into, I guess, it's more of like a flagship show as opposed to it being like live.
An original music, most likely. Like
that's usually what it means. But I'm with you on that. It would be cool. I mean, one of the ideas we had was to have a full band with us, and
so cool.
Yeah, it would be awesome. If we can get maybe a investor to invest.
Some of our
in
favorites, get an investor for this. Some of our favorites growing up were Soul Wax. Like and their live show has just somehow expanded, and there's like 15 people on stage now.
Well,
awesome.
I also think you're in the realm of when people made a shit ton of money selling records. And selling physical records, where now it's great that you can earn money as an artist making records again, but like, you have to be making money just off your records, you have to be streaming a fuck ton amount of streams. And you guys have always streamed really well. Your music streams really well, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're earning a shit ton of money from it. And
not at all,
especially when there's 2 of you.
I don't think we've even seen like a check from any royalty stuff, music wise, other than like, I don't think anything with Spotify, because obviously on our major label deal, like we're sort of like, ownership, like my body is your communion, take from me whatever you want. But I don't think we've ever gotten like here's your Spotify royalty check. I don't think we've ever received one.
That's wild, but I guess that's the joys of the major label deal is that they own 80% of your music. So
yeah, it was some, we got that deal so young too that we didn't know really what we were getting into. So I'm happy we're out of it, because apparently upon further review, it wasn't a great deal.
It never is.
Surprisingly.
It never is. I've never heard anyone come out and go, or even look at Taylor Swift, right? Like even she's complaining. Yeah. If Taylor Swift is complaining, like we're all fucked. Like,
totally. Nobody's like left there like, oh man, that deal was awesome. Sad to see it go.
I think the thing for me is just the whole ownership of music in those deals, where they own you for a bit of money.
Really. Yeah, I know.
And
they truly
it's also the number too. When you first hear it, it sounds like a lot, and by the time you actually receive said money, it's not nearly enough and not worth it enough to sell your soul for everything too. The number seems to get smaller and smaller, even though you see what that number is. You're like, wow, it's supposed to be a big number. It's interesting how that happens.
Well, I think it's also when you're starting out as an artist and you sign to a major, which generally the first time you sign to a major is usually when you're starting out.
Right.
Or you've had like a hit record or like something, and then the majors come in. Like it's the first bit of money, big amount of money that we're kind of offered, right? Like you don't, unless even if you have a hit record and you become like a really big DJ, that the big money probably comes in like a year later. Right after that hit record, when you've like proven yourself that you sold tickets. But majors come in with a shit ton of money straight away, and they're like, here's 150 grand, and 150 grand to artists that aren't earning money from music sounds like a lot of money. But then you take 20% out for the management, you take 20% out of tax, you then split it between two of you, and then you're like, well, I might as well just go get a 9-to-5 job.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. It sounds so great on paper, and then you get there, and not only is it way less, but you then sort of looking at them for these like little windfalls of cash, and it's just like a horrible way to operate and go about, because then you are making music. Not only it's like your career, but you're also doing it for them. You want them to be happy so you can get paid and get like the rest of your record fund. So then it sort of takes the joy and like the reason why we all started to do this out of it, because you're then just chasing like your next label check, only for them to bitch on how like, oh, we're not recouped, guys. We're really going out on a limb here. It's like,
no shit. Who recoups?
Yeah, nobody.
No one.
I remember
no one.
early on when they signed Post Malone. I remember our A&R at the time complaining. They're like, yeah, we just signed him to like $1 million deal, and like we're nowhere near recouped. It's like, yeah, I think he'll be fine, guys. Post Malone's gonna be fucking okay, idiots.
Oh, I love labels. It's hilarious.
It's so entertaining.
Do you have your own label?
Good stories. No.
Why not?
We don't.
We should. I mean, I've always wanted to at some point when the timing's right. You know. I don't know. Maybe in the next couple of years we'll start to.
I feel like
about that.
I want our maybe pedigree up a little bit more, and then maybe we'll start something from there. It doesn't feel like, I don't know if I can handle a label yet.
That's understandable. I guess
you have one, right?
Yeah. I started 2020, just before the pandemic. But for me, it's more of a label just to release my own music and then
cool.
I've signed 3 records in the last 2 years to it, and I'm always looking for records, but it's like you said, it's like it's a lot of work on top of everything else, and I don't really want to turn it into a label where it's just like churning out club records every week. I
feel like then you need to also bring somebody on to handle the majority, like the heavy lifting, and then. Well,
I have like a label team, so I license the label to another label, really, which the company's called Good Company, and they're an amazing team.
Awesome.
So Anton that owns it he was a big A&R at Warner for years, and then he left, started his own thing, but he's now also head of electronic at Warner. So
nice.
he's he's the reason why Medusa's record hit, if you know what I mean. He's done some huge things, and having that behind you is very helpful to kind of just the knowledge and have his team behind.
For sure.
So if it wasn't for those guys, I wouldn't be able to do a label. Even
it's a whole world that you know I don't really know that much about on like the back end stuff. So I mean that's cool. That would be fun to get into at some point.
Yeah,
I love all the music you've been
I can just see
releasing
people
lately.
texting us like, "Hey, why am I not getting playlisting on Spotify? Being on a flight, about to go play a show. I don't know, dude. Talk to somebody. Talk to Vinny about it."
Well, this is the thing: is that like I only sign people. Like I've signed 2 people: an artist called Debasque and an artist called Nassim. And Nassim is like a French producer, new guy on the block that. Has he's done successful things in the past, but this is like his side project that no one knows about. No, he's not talking about or anything. He's just completely doing what he wants to do. So the expectations of that are very low, and it's just great music. And then Debasque is a really good friend of mine from Austria who he's full time in music, but he ghostwrites for people. He DJs, but he also isn't like trying to make the Debasque thing a big thing because he's got he doesn't want to be touring full time and things like that. He's got a family, and so like for me it's like being able to like when I do an All We Have Is Now tour, like I can bring them on and they all want to be part of the crew, but it's like they're not trying. They're all they're worried about is making good music. And
that's the pocket to be in. I feel like where you're not looking at this like this has to work. It's more like I just want to like really try cool stuff, and I'm not worried about the result. I feel like that's when you have the most success too. Yeah, you're not expecting anything.
We were toying with that idea just even in the last year or so of just like it might be fun to just try a side project with no expectations. You know, with that same kind of mentality. Just because like. You know, when you've been doing something for years, you kind of are locked in certain headspaces about things. And I don't know, maybe it might be fun to just be like, hey, this is completely different. Let's just see where it goes. Not really expect, you know, it to be some huge success and just make good music. So I totally understand that headspace. Have you ever done a side project or like released anything on the sly that no one knows about?
I have I have 2 side projects. One, this kind of, it's weird. This weekend we're actually doing it. It's like a collab between myself and Sian, but it's called A Mock, and we've done like a whole album, but it's just we've just not released it, and it's probably not going to be released for years if it ever gets released. That was one, but I also do I do like a side project that doesn't even have a name. That I don't release the music, I just write it, and it's just like burial trip hoppy kind of stuff.
Sweet.
That. I think I might release it eventually, but it's not, I have no expectations for it. But I also think with what you're saying about having no expectations and kind of being stuck in the phantom's life of what you are, and it's the same for me, stuck in the Will Clarke life. Does writing that album help you get out of that because there's no expectations, or do you still feel there's expectations to that?
For me, I definitely still feel some expectations there of like we need to stay on brand with like Phantoms stuff. And as much as we want to take certain risks, I feel like I guess we did to an extent with this record, but we kind of seem to go back to our sound of like our Phantomsy sound. I don't know, Vinny, if you feel differently about it.
Yeah, you're always tethered to some core idea, I guess, of what you think the project is. Even if you're trying new things, it's always going to be tethered in some way. I know. I guess there's light expectations, but with the album, we did throw a lot of our sort of old ideas of, you know, what the project was sort of out of the window. So I guess that freed up some more space. But I mean, there's always something to be said for just like having something new too, and just feeling like you're starting something fresh, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I realize how much of a fucking uphill battle it is to make anything successful. But it's also like, do I want to make this successful, or do I just want to make the music? Like, it's kind of weird. It's a battle that I feel like a lot of people to kind of battle with. And I don't know though, for me as Will Clarke, my sounds have changed so much over the years, like insane amounts of change over the years. And I think that's where it's kind of worked the most for me, is like I just go out on a whim and just be like, as long as I tell the story correctly, people understand it, and you lose people and gain people along the way. But if eventually that everyone kind of starts to get it, whether they like it or not is a different thing.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, actually. You know, you're always afraid of maybe losing people, but I guess the people that are with you still, they tend to be your biggest fans, and they're with you for life.
Yeah, they listen forever anyway. Like I still get people asking me to play the Dirty Bird stuff, and I never do, but they still turn up to my shows.
Right.
Of course.
And I feel like there comes a point in your career where you have to kind of take a step away from what you did in the past. Like, we're lucky. Like, I don't know. I battle with this on a weekly basis in my shows, because there's records that I've written that I don't necessarily always play that I know I should play, right? And I know that there's people that paid good money to go and see that. But also there's some records that I just don't want to play. Or don't necessarily fit in my show. Is for you guys, is that doing the live show, does that help you play those records?
Definitely.
Definitely.
I think, we can go back a bit, and usually what we'll do for like an older track that maybe we don't want to, like one of our first tracks that did decently well was a cover of Cocaine, like the Eric Clapton, JJ Cale song, and it did decently well. But even now it just sounds so much older that we would probably I'd probably sing that over maybe a newer track, or just have like a little breakdown with that over it. But yeah, people, I mean, you get that all the time. Like one of our first EPs was called like the Broken Halo EP, and there's a song on there weirdly sung by our friend Nick Braun, who plays Cousin Greg on Succession. He's now became like a giant actor, but like we get requested that song all the time, and it's so old, and it's like we're not,
and it's like a pop song pretty much.
It doesn't even sound like us. And like I get it, guys, but we're not gonna play that.
We always get the phone up like DJ requests, and I see it's just like something from our first album. I'm like, it will not fit into the set. Like, I'm sorry. Like I like that music too, and I love that you're a fan of that stuff, but like it's not gonna fit, unfortunately.
So I guess doing the live show just allows you to play full on 100% Phantoms music. And you're almost setting the vibe yourself rather than a DJ set. You're actually kind of going into the vibe, working out what to play, whereas you're kind of curating your own vibe.
It's a little interesting again because you're pretty locked in with the live show, so it's a lot of trial and error. And usually take some shows where you're like, ooh, that moment felt a little rushed, or that felt ooh, we could have maybe gotten into this, or that dragged a little bit. And it kind of sucks because, well, we have Life is Beautiful and Firefly where we get to kind of road test it. But you sort of have to make your live set and be like, okay, I think this is gonna be cool. And then you go out there and you're like, oh man, we kind of missed the mark on these few things. And then you have to tailor it a bit there. That's not what I'm excited about, is like going through the trial and error phase of that. But
the teething problems.
Hopefully, yeah, exactly. We'll get it dialed in. That's what I like about DJing, though. You get to feel a vibe. Oh, this isn't what we expected. We could pivot a little bit and kind of like make our own vibe and build into it. Harder to do that with a live show.
Well, also, if a record's not working in the DJ set, you can pull it out. You can you can mix another one in pretty much straight away. It doesn't really matter. And there's like another 20 more records afterwards that will hopefully pull it back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel
there's
like
nothing.
Go on.
Oh, there's nothing like the feeling of like during the live show. I know Kyle sings, and I used to sing during the live show a bit, like a little bit more, and singing to a crowd where they're just not quite into it for whatever reason. Maybe it's like a weird festival or something, and you're like, man, I have to finish this song.
We can't just like move on. One of the worst ones, I know we're running short on time, we'll be quick, but
we can go on for 4 hours. There's no time.
I love it. We were doing some there was a time where we weren't really DJing, so any festival we'd have an offer to, it would be live no matter what. And there was this fucking festival in Arizona somewhere. We were like second up on the stage, So it was like daytime, like 3 p.m. Hot out. The guy before us, like, it was almost like he won a contest to be up there. So he's like a local kid. And so he's up there and there's maybe like 25 people, but to him, he's on that stage. This is the moment. So he's just going into straight, like every top 40 song, Skrillex, dubstep, all that shit. Then we have to come up there with our live gear now and like go into this set of our own music that probably half these people don't know. And also when like the dubstep is like here and then our little like, ooh, indie electronic, we're a little quieter now. It's so hard to build a vibe from there. And you're like, I have to like sing right now and have like a moment and do this just to a crowd of people that are just going to be like,
who the fuck? Who the fuck are these? When you do like a live tour, do you create the lineup around you as well?
We'll have like usually one or two openers that are with us on that run.
And are they live?
The last run we did, they were live. I'm not sure about what's coming up for like this one, but last one were these guys, Sachi from New Zealand, and then Georgia, who you probably know over the UK.
Georgia, I don't know if I do know that.
She had a couple of songs, like I'm forgetting the names off the top of my head, but like Crystal Clear did a really good remix of one of them, and
she was great. So that was their support for the last run. We're nowhere even close to figuring out for this one yet.
Well, it's so tough. That's the thing, is like also like budgets get cut massively and you're like, fuck, like how do we have to pay these people? Like, to be fair, like we've even had it with DJ shows where it's like, I want to get somebody else on the show, but it's like, it's going to cost me this much to get here, or to like, and I need to also make money. So it's like, how much of my money do I want to take out and give to somebody and then expect them to pay for costs when they're through the roof and probably not make much money at all as well? And it's like, fuck.
It's so tough. It's also hard too, because we have certain people in our mind where like they'd be perfect for this, but we have nowhere near the budget to even get close to getting that person on here, even if they're not like a gigantic artist. So that's definitely a challenge. And I mean, that's what, we will lean into our manager, Paul, to kind of help with that. And it's also just, it sucks when it comes to hard tickets, because then you have to look data driven and be like, okay, how did this person do in this market and in this market too? So not only do they have to match up with your sounds, not only do they have to be in budget, but you also have to look and see like, have they been able to do like 50 tickets in the city? Have they been able to do this? It's fucking exhausting. It's miserable.
Do you guys get
a live tour?
do you guys get involved with that side of things much, or do you leave that to management?
As far as the like picking who we want to have on the road with us, I mean, we'll throw names around. Usually what happens is we'll throw all these names around and it'll be like unavailable or can't do it at that budget, blah, blah, blah. And then it usually has somebody else that like our agent will put forward, and we kind of go back and forth if that's the right thing or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. Vinny, I've got to ask, is that gray streak real?
It is, yeah. People do ask that a lot, actually, because it would be fun if I did that fake,
like painting it on every morning.
I'm so jealous of your hairline right now. Like this fucking
thanks.
Bald man over here. I know I've got a beard, but fuck me, it's a good head of hair there.
Hey, thank you, I appreciate it. We're trying to.
And the gray looks fucking legit. Like I'm here for it a lot.
Yeah, it is real stress. That is that's how you get it in.
Can we actually pivot to beard talk for a second here? I was trying to grow mine out for a while, and it just sucked. It got like big on the sides. I looked a little homeless man for a bit. How do you take care of that beard? I know everybody out there is dying to know. What do you do for this upkeep?
You have to go through the homeless look before it gets to the good look. Like you literally look homeless for a long time, and then so it grows out more than it grows down. I think that's kind of like whatever, and also because like our cheeks are wider generally than our chin, so it kind of bushes out.
Yeah, protrudes.
So you can trim it a little bit, but you also have to get a good barber. And sorry to American barbers, I've never found a good American barber. Like
I will say that too. I'll attest to that. I've been getting some bad. This isn't a great haircut, and I got this recently.
And they're expensive.
They're very expensive.
Yeah. It's true.
Maybe I'll just start flying to the UK to go get a
I got a good
haircut.
barber. He'll hook you up.
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm sure flights are cheap.
Super cheap. To be fair, I think like international flights aren't too pricey right now. Internal flights in America are ridiculous.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of flying to Cleveland or like Cincinnati or something, and it's more than the cost of getting to Paris.
Yeah,
that always feels good.
I've got a show in a couple of weeks or towards the end of July. I think it's July or maybe August. Anyway, I'm doing LA to Milwaukee, and it costs $850.
Yeah, and you're like, in what world is this a normal thing? We had a show in Omaha, and I think it cost us $2,500 round trip.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's like not in first class. That's just economy. You're like, guys, this ain't normal here. What's going on? They all got bailouts too from our government. They're acting like they're trying to get their money back now. It's just such a disaster.
And then you hear like Delta. I think it's Delta. That all the pilots are going on strike because the pilots haven't had a wage increase since 2016, and you're like, you're not even paying the fucking pilots.
Like, who is getting this money? It's like, well, I needed a new yacht.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but the pilots, like, I don't want to kind of tell anyone how to run their business, but you're an airline. The only people we need are the fucking pilots.
Yeah. Oh God, it is really frustrating. And even this month, like, we have so many days. We're flying to Austin. LA to Austin used to be maybe $350 round trip. It's like, I just looked, it's like $1,000 for both of us. Just take it. And you know what's funny? Our fees don't go up too with that. We can't inflate our fees.
No.
It's a very strange time, and I'm not too sure what the outcome of it is, because for a developing artist, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And also for, like, I still look at both of us as like, we're still developing artists, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
We're not massive headliners selling 5,000-6,000 tickets, where money doesn't matter for them. But I think that this is the thing, is like, maybe now, I don't know. This isn't going to happen, but in a dream world, is like, maybe promoters for, like, especially festivals, where they're like, okay, well, hang on a minute. Yes, the headliner deserves $175,000, $200,000, however much they deserve. However, we need to get a sick lineup as well as the headliner, and maybe we don't have to pay the big headliner $200,000. We can give them $150,000.
Yeah.
And then everybody else gets an extra $5,000, which then covers all the costs that they're paying.
That sounds very good.
It's not going to happen.
I'm like, this sounds great. I just don't see it happening. But
it is really tough. I mean, there's been certain things we've had to turn down just because you do run the numbers, and you're like, after commissions and everything, like, Vinny and I would be walking away with like, $400, and you're like, this is it's not worth it to fly and do all that shit there. Hopefully it'll like come down and get figured out a bit. Otherwise we should start just, call our agents, let's inflate our prices. They're going up. What used to be ain't no more.
It's really interesting, because then at the end of the day, the people that suffer the most are the ticket buyers, because it all goes to the ticket buyers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which sucks, because they're our fans. And realistically, for me, is like, although yes, on the business, it's great to have expensive tickets and sell out an expensive show because everyone makes more money. But realistically, it's like, I'd love to do a tour for like $10 day. And but you then look at the maths, and you're like, it just physically can't happen.
Just you look at the numbers of all that. But you're right, it does go back to, well, it's funny, it goes back to the ticket holders, but then a lot of the other stuff stays the same. So you're like, somebody's making a lot more money here somewhere. And it's not necessarily always the artist or whoever, somebody. Because
if you think like promoters, what has gone up in costs for promoters? I don't know. Like, especially if they're in a club, like the equipment's kind of paid for and everything. That's the
right.
What has?
I don't know. Is alcohol more expensive now?
I don't know.
Too.
Maybe
the alcohol price.
I know there's staffing issues sort of everywhere too. Right
well,
now.
no one wants to work.
Yeah.
Simple, which I respect because working sucks.
Yeah. Get it. I understand.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. These flights, they can't be this much or else people will just stop fucking touring. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
The other thing too, that Kyle pulled up this article the other day that said that American Airlines currently has 12,000 flights booked this summer that they don't know how they're going to staff, right?
No pilots
for them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if some of those are the flights we have booked
100%.
for our shows.
Yeah, we fly American. So it's cool too, because, you count on these shows and you're kind of adding up what your income is going to be over like the month. And you're just like, if American Airlines like fucks us out of actually being able to make money this month to be able to help pay for our live tour at the end, it's just so frustrating. So you get an apology and like 5,000 miles from them.
Yeah, thanks very much. That I then still can't book another flight on. It is crazy, because I think there's this big thing, especially in Europe, because a lot more people travel in America to work. It's kind of more of a thing where you have to fly because it's so big, where in the UK or Europe, people get on trains and stuff like that. But it's like a lot of people that are actually that are getting on a plane are going to work. They're not necessarily going on a holiday. And you're not just fucking the one person, you're fucking the whole industry. Because like, imagine you go to a airport and then the flight's cancelled and then there's no other flights. Like, how many people does that affect? It affects obviously all the fans, and it doesn't look good on you. There's nothing, like, no matter what anyone says, if you say your flight's been cancelled, the fans are going to be judging you massively.
Always.
And then you got the promoter that loses out on the money. You've got the club that loses out on the money. You've got the city that loses out on the money because you're bringing people to the city, which is bringing taxes. Like, it's such a weird situation that could be fixed and isn't getting fixed.
No, it's not. I mean, that just happened to us. We were going to Bonnaroo by way of Austin. We were trying to save a little bit of money, and there was like a cheaper route to do that. And the night before, we just get notification like, our flight's been canceled. Okay, cool. We each have a different flight the next day we could be booked on. Vinny had to go through Dallas. I had to go through Austin again. So Vinny gets on his flight, to Dallas. Well, like 2 hours before our flight's supposed to take off, mine gets canceled. Call them, no other flights available, not going to make it. Have to end up paying an extra like $700 to fly in a middle seat on Southwest Airlines because American fucked me. And then they're not going to give you cash for that. They just go, well, it happens, man. Sorry.
These are the times.
Yeah, you're like, cool. So that's another cost incurred without no fault of mine. It's not like I slept through my flight. It's not like I did anything here. But yeah, it's brutal. Also, every flight is filled to the brim too, with everybody all the time. And I'm not sure how everybody's affording all these flights or where everybody's going, but it's wild out there.
Well, this is the thing is I went to Ibiza last weekend, played there, and for how the economy is, the airport was packed. Like, there wasn't a single seat in the airport to sit down on. It was packed, and it wasn't business people. They were all going away on holiday or vacation, and you're like, when's this going to stop? When is this going to end? Because
and you're like, not all these people are wealthy, right? And that can afford like a huge trip like this too.
I did hear that this is the most money, at least Americans have put on credit cards since right before the last recession. So I think a lot of people are just like,
fuck it.
I don't know. COVID's over. Fuck it. Let's just like run up the credit cards and stuff. And usually that's a bad sign for things to come and like the bubble will burst, because you would have no idea that inflation was high or that, it was kind of bad out there, judging by these flights and where everybody's going. And mind you, maybe it's because every other flight's canceled. So people are just getting shoved on the ones that do operate to go wherever. But yeah, it is wild out there. Traveling right now is not fun.
No, it's better not having to wear a mask though.
Yeah.
Yes, that I can imagine the mask with your beard, dude.
Oh, dude, it was the worst. I genuinely like traveling. I enjoy getting on a plane. I enjoy the whole process.
Oh, I love it.
Same.
The headphones on.
Yeah,
just chill.
Just zen. Like, don't have to be on your phone. Like, it's fucking great. However, when COVID happened and kind of coming out and having to wear a mask, like, it was not fun. And then, like, you have the power trip of the air hostesses, like, the minute you take it off, they're like on you, like it's their fucking one and only job.
I had a pretty intense situation the other day. This was when the mask mandate was still active in America, and this woman had her mask just like right here, up to like the tip of her nose. Yeah. And this one flight attendant was just like, "Hey, could you just pull up to the bridge?" And she asked her like 2 times, and she was like, "Okay, yeah." And she just pulled it up and it would slip back down. And it got to the point where she came back over. She's like, "You're about to get kicked off this flight if you don't get that mask from the tip of your nose onto the bridge of your nose." And she's like, "It's on my face." Like, this is pretty intense. You're really escalating this right now for no real reason. So I know what you mean.
It was a weird.
That was
time.
brutal. It's also funny too. Like, so it was like lifted everywhere, and in LA they brought back that you have to wear it in like an Uber, but then as soon as you get to the airport, you can take it off. Like, it's to the point too where none of the laws are even making sense at some point. It's like, guys, can we just like drop it? Like, I understand like there's still going to be surges, there's still going to be stuff going on, we want to be safe, but if you still want to wear one, fuck it, go wear one. But I don't know, I'm very happy don't have to wear that on planes anymore, because doing like a couple coast to coast, just wearing that thing, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's terrible. So when's the album out again?
August 12th.
Yeah.
And then when's the tour being announced?
That's a great question. I'd say sometime around August. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
We know when the dates of the tour are, but
you just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, the announcement will happen later.
That's cool. When are you coming to LA, by the way?
25th of July, I'm coming to LA, but this podcast will be done by then, so we would have been in LA and hung out before then.
Cool.
Yeah, well, excited to hear what trouble we get into.
Yeah, this podcast will never come out, and there's going to be a headline of like Phantoms and Will Clarke, like die by eaten by shark.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds great.
That's cool. You've got a lot of work to do then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy boys.
Yeah, we are finalizing. Well, we're also touring like all July, pretty much, the classic Weekend Warrior stuff. And August, which leaves us not that much time to figure out our live show and stuff. So that'll be interesting to see how that all comes together. Right now, it's looking like November is like when the actual tour would start for the show. So the plan is to have a lot of October to rehearse. However, we got 2 major festivals, Life is Beautiful and Firefly in September. So it doesn't leave us too much time to really sit and reherse and figure all this out. But we'll get it done. We always do.
You'll get it done. It's the part of it, right? It's the stress of it that kind of makes it all come together and last minute. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've just done an hour and 20 minutes, and it's flown by.
Pretty good. Easy.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks
so much. Good hang.
Thanks so much for coming on. Let's grab dinner when we can. And let's keep in touch. Can't wait.
Well, do you eat meat, right? You're not vegetarian?
No.
All right, Korean barbecue.
Yeah, let's do that. I stay in K-Town every time I come to America.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's nearby.
Yeah,
let's take you to our spot.
Sick. Where's your spot?
What is it called? It's like
I'm gonna completely fuck up the name.
Yeah, I know the one. I know the one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love that spot.
Let's do it.
There's a few down there.
Have you been to Icky Ramen?
Yes, I have. Not for a long time though.
It's very good. Vinny, if
that
you
sounds
haven't,
great too.
You gotta go.
I'm trying. I probably have, but I'll look it up after.
I have to not go there though. My manager like literally said like every time you come to LA, you only eat there, and I'm like, yeah, I probably should go eat somewhere else.
Salt.
Yeah, it's just so good, but you know, like, and it's so easy. It's like walking distance from the hotel. So I'm like, oh, I don't have to get in an Uber. LA traffic and all that shit.
Yeah.
You
got to stay local always.
Lads,
well, I'm down.
Let's do it. How can people follow you? How can people listen to the album?
We're just at Phantoms pretty much everywhere. And, you know, you can go to Sam Goody, go to Virgin Records. You can go anywhere online and you'll be able to get our record. I think we also have some limited vinyl available too, which I don't have any info on where you buy that at on me right now.
Yeah.
So just look it up. Google's going to be your best friend for this.
Amazing. Thank you so much, lads. Good luck with the album. I'm really excited to hear it. I'm really excited.
Can't wait to hear some new Will Clarke as well.
Yeah, I'm waiting for stuff. Peace, guys. Keep safe. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed it. Please go subscribe. Please share it. I love you lots. Keep safe. And I will see you next time.